Welcome to this episode of Mercy Can't Stop Her. I am your host, Judith Kambia Obatusa, JKO. Last week, we shared stories of women in the Bible who did not allow the challenges of life deter them from activating their shield of faith. So we talked about the story of Esther. We talked about the story of Ruth. And we also talked about Rahab, who was called the town harlot. We saw how, despite their status in life and their challenges, they held on to faith. Today, we're reaching beyond the Bible and coming back to inspire ourselves with the incredible stories of women whose faith have actually shaped our world. So together, we will journey from the Netherlands to the United States to discover how these remarkable women use their beliefs to overcome challenges, fight for justice, and inspire others. And the whole idea is for us to also be inspired because we can still be those women whose stories inspire others in future. So let us start our journey. We will begin our journey in the Netherlands in the 20th century, and there we meet Corrie ten Boom. So Corrie lived through the horrors of World War II, but she was brought up in a family that believed in prayer and the power of the divine. The ten Boom family owned a watch shop, and during the German occupation of the Netherlands, the watch shop became a secret haven for Jews who were fleeing Nazi persecution and the atrocities of the Holocaust. When the ten Boom family's activities were exposed, Corrie, along with her father, Casper, and her sister, Betsy, were arrested by the Gestapo. So the Gestapo were the secret service of the German army. Corrie's journey led her to the infamous Ravensbrück concentration camp, a place that was the largest concentration camp for women and had really mean female guards. I was researching why Ravensbrück was notorious, and I read where somebody said that people were rewarded for being horrible to others in Ravensbrück. And so we're seeing women hurting other women. That happened then. It still happens today. And we can take a moment at this time to think about ourselves. Are we women who hurt other women? However, the ten Boom family's deep-rooted faith sustained them during the harrowing experiences that followed after their arrest. Despite the deplorable conditions and the loss of her beloved sister Betsy in Ravensbrück, Corrie's faith remained unbroken. So while in Ravensbrück, when Betsy was alive, Corrie and Betsy shared their faith with others who soon, and some of those people became Christians. And when Betsy died, Betsy's unwavering optimism and spiritual strength, even in the face of the adversities that they went through, became a source of inspiration for Corrie because it left an indelible mark on her. So Corrie survived Ravensbrück and the war, and she dedicated her life to sharing the message of forgiveness and reconciliation. And this is really, really important because I don't know if you've been listening to other episodes of Mercy Can't Stop Her. We've talked about the power of forgiveness when we're talking about faith, the role that forgiveness plays in helping us activate our faith so that we're able to thrive through chaos. And we talked about going on a retreat where we're going to have a forgiveness facilitator to help us deal with the issues of unforgiveness, because unforgiveness is as bad as a cancer. It can actually cause cancer. It can cause ulcer. It can cause sicknesses, physical sicknesses. So unforgiveness is a big thing that we cannot afford to carry as part of our lives. So Corrie actually wrote a book about the experience of her family called The Hiding Place. And this chronicles how their family defied the Nazis, and it also shows the transformative power of faith in the most difficult times. Corrie survived the war, like I said, and she traveled extensively, spreading that message of God's love and forgiveness everywhere she went to. She became a highly sought after speaker, and she continued to share her story of survival, resilience, and the healing power of faith till she passed away in 1983. In Corrie ten Boom, we can see a woman whose unwavering commitment to her Christian beliefs transcended the horrors of war. Her legacy lives on through the lives she touched and the enduring message of forgiveness she shared. One of her most famous quotes on forgiveness goes like this: "Forgiveness is the key that unlocks the door of resentment and the handcuff of hatred. It is a power that breaks the chains of bitterness and the shackles of selfishness." Yes, forgiveness actually liberates us. It sets us free. It is something that we cannot afford to not grab for ourselves. Corrie's life shows us how faith can sustain us through trials. And not only that, it also helps us extend the healing and reconciliation that we go through. Faith helps us extend the healing and reconciliation that we go through. And it expands our liberty, the faith that we have on a global scale. So when we are sustained, we're able to, multiply that in other people's lives. Corrie's story shows us that we can find strength in our faith, even in the most difficult times. It also shows us that in the face of unimaginable suffering, we can still extend forgiveness to those that hurt us. Think about yourself for a moment. I don't know, do you have someone who has hurt you deeply that you're carrying in your mind? Imagine the hurt, physical, emotional, and every other way that Corrie went through. Let her story encourage you. She went to the concentration camp and she forgave the Nazis, even some of them that she met after the war. You can learn from that. Forgiveness does a whole lot of positive things in our lives as it helps us on our healing journey. I'll put the link to the episode where we had an interview with the forgiveness facilitator, Deborah Wright, and you can access it and learn a little bit more about how forgiveness can change your life. Next, we travel across the Atlantic to meet Sojourner Truth, a pivotal figure in American history. Sojourner was born into slavery, but her belief in God's love for all played a profound role in shaping her resilience and commitment to fighting for freedom and equality. At the age of 46, Sojourner Truth escaped slavery, and she embarked on a mission to promote abolition and women's rights. Her faith, her Christian faith, guided her advocacy because she believed that her actions were in alignment with God's divine plan. She believed that God created all of us equal and that none of us should be discriminated against. None of us should be in chains, in shackles, being dominated by others. Sojourner was born Isabella Bomfrey, but she adopted the name Sojourner Truth to signify her life's mission as a traveling advocate for truth and justice. So a person could be born into penury, and it could be financial penury, it could be moral penury. Well, we can decide to change. We can choose to live a different life. So if you're listening to me and your life isn't how you want it to be, the first step to change is decision. Sojourner made a decision and she changed her name. So if you've been labeled by others, you can change that label. And the first person who matters in the change, the most important factor in the change is you. Central to Sojourner Truth's message was the notion that God's love extended to all, regardless of race, gender, or status. Her famous Ain't I a Woman speech, which she delivered at the Women's Rights Convention in 1851, challenged prevailing notions of femininity and highlighted the intersectionality of her identity as both a woman and a Black person. I'm going to put a link to that speech in the show notes as well. And you know the thing about intersection, we all have these intersections in our lives. If you take a moment, you could see your intersection. It could be the intersection of race and gender. It could be social status and health. There are many intersections, and there could be more than two different intersections depending on the issue or the context or the situation. Sojourner Truth's commitment to justice wasn't only grounded in her faith, but also in her unwavering belief that she was an instrument of God's will. So, regardless of your current situation, regardless of the troubles in your life, you can still be an instrument of God's will. What do you believe about yourself? Do you believe that this trouble is happening to you and that's all that you are? Do you believe that this is your curse and this is the mark on you, that you go from place to place like Cain and be mistreated? What do you believe about yourself? But no matter what you're going through, I just want you to know that you are not your troubles. You are just going through them for a reason and a season. You can still be an instrument of God's will if you are willing. Sojourner Truth was a slave, but she was willing to be used. And that propelled her. Her belief that she was an instrument and her faith in the God who she believed chose her propelled her to fulfill her destiny and to leave a legacy. Sojourner Truth's legacy endures through her contributions to the abolitionist movement, her commitment to women's rights, and her embodiment of faith as a force. Her embodiment of faith as a force for justice. Sojourner's life reflects the intersection of faith and activism. We see that intersection again. And it is an inspiration for all of us, every woman listening, for us to stand for truth and justice wherever we find ourselves. It does not matter your status. It doesn't matter what you're going through. Wherever you find yourself, you can be an agent for change. Even in the face of adversity, faith can be a powerful catalyst for transformation and societal change. And when we use the word societal change, it can look so big, even from your family, even from where you work, even from your church, even from your community. Your faith can be a catalyst for change. And that's something that we need to take a moment to think about. Faith is grounding. Faith is an anchor, not just in life storms, but even in creating change. Our final stop on today's journey brings us to Susan B. Anthony, a pioneer in the fight for women's rights and champion of women's suffrage, meaning the right for women to vote. She was a champion in the fight for the right for women to vote. Deeply rooted in her Quaker faith, Susan believed that all people deserved equal rights, regardless of gender. Quakers believe that everyone is capable of experiencing God directly within themselves and in their relationships with others and the world around us. And they are committed to equality, peace, simplicity, and truth. Born in 1820 into a Quaker family committed to social reform, Susan's family was committed to social reform. they were at the forefront of change in their community. Susan's upbringing laid the groundwork for the life she lived, dedicated to justice and equality. Her Quaker faith, characterized by its emphasis on equality and social activism, profoundly influenced the way she saw the world. Quakers believe in the inner light. They believe that there is a divine spark within each individual. And this belief in the inner light fueled Susan's conviction that all people, regardless of gender, were equal in the eyes of God. Susan's faith in the inherent dignity of every individual and her unwavering belief in justice propelled her into the forefront of the monumental struggle for women's right to vote. During this fight, she faced ridicule and opposition, but Susan held firm to her conviction that women too were endowed with inalienable rights. Her famous declaration, "I declare to you that woman must not depend upon the protection of man, but must be taught to protect herself, and there I take my stand," reflects her commitment to empowering women to claim their rightful place in society. The Bible says the man is the head of the family. Many of us know that without the neck, the head cannot really function. And we women, we are the neck of the family. Our rightful place in society is a place of influence. Today, women who are empowered raise empowered families, and they do great things. All these women that we've been talking about, Sojourner Truth, Corrie, Susan B. Anthony, they are women that are empowered. And empowerment isn't something that someone always has to give to you. You can be empowered from within you, just like the Quakers believe. And the Bible says, as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. The empowerment starts from within you before it comes outside. So take a moment. How are you doing in you? Are you empowered? In your sacred place, how are you doing? Susan's advocacy extended beyond suffrage, encompassing issues such as labor rights, temperance, even abolition, the issue of slavery. Her faith-driven determination to address societal inequities underscores the transformative power of aligning one's convictions with action. So you're talking about your values, you're talking about what you believe. When you say you believe in something, do your actions follow the words that you speak? Or are you just one that is swayed by every wind of doctrine? You believe this one when it's favorable, you believe that. These women went through hard times, but they held on to their faith. Women were finally given the right to vote with the passing of the 19th Amendment in 1920. 14 years after Susan's death, Susan's unwavering dedication to justice, equality, and the power of faith was what drove her activism. And this challenges us to consider how our own faith can propel us toward meaningful action in the pursuit of a more just and equitable world. Are you a woman of faith? If you say yes, then you know that you too can change your world. You too can be involved in your community. You too can speak up for those who have no voice. Corrie, Sojourner, and Susan are just a few examples of the countless women whose faith has transformed this world that we are living in. Their stories remind us that faith is more than just belief. It is a powerful force that can inspire us to overcome challenges, advocate for change, and leave a lasting impact even after we are gone. Next week, we'll be looking at how separation can help us build a faith to thrive through chaos. When we looked at all these women, we saw some of them, their faith came from their upbringing, but when they became adults, they had to choose to continue in that faith. So where are you now? Are you in a place of turmoil? How can separation help you build your faith so that you are able to thrive through chaos? That will be what we'll be talking about next week. But till then, I want to remind you that if a woman who lost her loved ones and many years of her life in a concentration camp can forgive, you too can learn to forgive those who have caused you trauma. Like I said before, I'm going to link my most recent episode on forgiveness in the show notes. If a woman who was born a slave can become someone who saves others from slavery, you too can save others from the troubles you have experienced or you are even experiencing. If a woman can fight for good and not live to see it happen, you too can be selfless and fight for others even when you don't benefit from it. When you do this, mercy won't stop you. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.